up. Well, today is a very cold day. We're in the middle of the winter, and normally I don't tell you when we are having winter or summer or spring or fall, but it's a little bit under the weather. We've had a lot of snow. We're taping today in the Bayonne area showroom, and so I have with me today as my guest Annette Rubin, who's a broker with Exit Real Estate. I needed to get her in here because I think there's a lot of information that people don't understand or are very ignorant of the things you need to know when you want to buy a piece of property or you want to sell it. So I thought this is something I wanted to do for a long time. So Annette, thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
And having the time to come in here. But I think all these things that we're looking for today, I know, even though I've sold property in the past and I've bought property, there are still questions that I think probably I didn't come across, but I may be coming across them now. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to tell us about real estate. I'm talking particularly in the New Jersey area, probably, because that's where we are, and this show is for the local people. But don't just think because it's in New Jersey that doesn't mean it wouldn't apply to Maine or any place else, because the information is universal. So, okay, what do you think is the first thing if you want to buy a piece of property? What are the things that the person needs to know? First of all, you have to be qualified.
Yes, you should be qualified by either your bank, where you may have a portfolio, or by a good, reputable mortgage representative, a mortgage banker or a mortgage broker, so that they can do some preliminary checking and really give you an idea of what it is you will qualify for. It's very frustrating, I think, for somebody to go out and look at properties and then find out later it's not something they can handle or they can afford.
That's very disappointing. And one thing, too, it's better to start looking at something that's in the affordable stage. And sometimes they show you something above the price range that you can do. But that's disappointing, I think, when you start doing it up and going down, because now anything else you see, you won't be interested in it.
Right. It becomes the ruler you measure everything else by.
Exactly.
And a good, a professional real estate agent should be able to find, especially in our area, and real estate's very local, inventory enough to give you choices within what you can afford. There's so many different options for financing that going beyond what someone can afford, it wastes the buyer's time, it wastes the agent's time, but it's disruptive to the seller. To have someone come into the property and comment, gee, it's wonderful, and then the seller's expectations are that there may be an offer, and then there's not.
I know when I was selling my house, I had people who would just randomly come to the door at 7 o'clock at night and say, we'd like to see your house. And I said, I'm sorry, because at the time I was babysitting my grandsons who were 2.5 years old, the twins, and this would be bath time. I couldn't have people going through the house. Besides, I didn't like the idea of having a whole group of people coming in at one time, because things disappear.
Right.
And I thought that, I said, more than 3 people at one time is all I want going through my house. That's it. Because I don't want to find out that things were taken, and who can we pinpoint it to. So there's certain rules, I think, that would be good for the seller as well.
Absolutely.
The time of the day that they want to come in and see is important. And not have like a whole family coming in to check this. It's too much.
And that's difficult, because sometimes if it's a cultural thing, sometimes it's people with extended families and they want everybody's opinion. Or it could be that part of the family is helping them finance buying the house.
Right.
In our area, primary residences in our area are 2-family, 3-family, multifamily houses.
Exactly.
And it's entirely possible that that whole entourage is going to live in the house. But it's very difficult if you have more than a couple of people, to go from room to room. The buyer will end up with a perception that there's not enough space in the house, because if you try to fit 6 or 8 people into the dining room, it's going to feel like it's too small. Especially in our area, older homes have smaller bedrooms, and you fit more than one or two people in the bedroom, and there's not space if there's furniture there, and I think it's very hard.
And the other thing is, I hadn't done it while I was selling the house, but I noticed that people were smoking, and I found cigarettes in my cellar. They stamped out, and I thought, oh, I had a lot of stuff down the cellar at the time, so I thought, wow, they could just burn the house down. So you have to have rules, like the no smoking should be universal. Never let anybody through your house with cigarettes, because it's very dangerous to burn the whole thing down. So these are little things I'm remembering what I was going through at the time, and that's why I did the limitations on how many people were coming in at one time, because I was selling the house and I was showing the house. So this way, I had better control, you know, because I had it in the hands of a realtor for a year, and she never did anything. And nothing happened. And
disappointing.
And I said as soon as I took it up on myself, because I had taken the real estate course, but I decided the last minute not to do it, because I was a technologist, and I thought, well, I need to have a salary coming in all the time, so I decided maybe I'll just go back to what I was doing before. But it came in handy when I was selling. I sold it myself.
A good real estate agent should be able to set those parameters up when they first list a property, to ask the seller what's important to you. The same way we qualify a buyer, it's important that the seller is happy with the process as well.
Right.
And especially in a situation with a multifamily house, you need to know what the tenant's schedule is, offer them a schedule. Sometimes somebody can see just the owner's part of the house and maybe common areas, and then if they're interested enough, come back a second time. Very often people will, because of our work schedules, they see the house for the first time on an evening. It's always a great idea, bring them back maybe on the weekend during the day, so that they see how the daylight comes into the house, how it affects the flow of the house, and how their furniture might look different than what's there already. So it's very easy to set that up and say, well, the showings can only be Tuesday night from 6 to 7, or Thursday from 5 to 7, or whatever. So.
Right.
And we tend to also adjust those seasonally. At this time of the year, it's dark by 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon.
Right.
So there's less parking availability. There's less interest in doing later appointments. In the warmer weather, especially with the relaxed school schedule for families, we'll do showings till 8, 9 at night, because there's still daylight and people aren't as restricted for their time in the evening.
Exactly. So what would you suggest? I know with your company, you probably have your own attorneys maybe, or broker, people to help you get. I know my sister-in-law in Las Vegas, she's got a whole array of people that help her. So when they go to her, she sells a piece of property in 3 weeks. She stages it. She's got everybody there in place. She makes sure when they come, they're able to buy it too.
Right.
So she screens everything first. And I think that's an excellent thing to do, because like you said, you don't want to put somebody's hopes up that you possibly could get a house. And if they can't, then you set guidelines. Well, this is what you need to do for the next 6 months or a year to assure that the next time you want to buy, you will be prepared. This is what there are steps to do it.
That's right.
And maybe you're not interested in doing it right now, but if you plan ahead, that when the day comes that you see something you really want, you'll be ready for it.
The National Association of Realtors does follow statistics, and they do surveys, and most people do, especially these days, over 90% of people are starting their shopping, their home buying shopping online. And pictures are available, and all of our multiple listing services, you're allowed to post multiple pictures. So many people, they've looked at either virtual tours, or they've looked at multiple photos of properties online, and they may already have, before they ever come to a realtor, they may have an idea of things that they already know they will like or won't like.
That's good to know, because they're so advanced. I forgot about going online to see a piece of property.
It's huge. Yeah, it's huge. There are over 50 different websites that are commonly used by buyers. It isn't just the big one or two. There's lots of them, and the consumer is really very, very well educated, for the most part, before they ever even come into the real estate office or into our to contact us, because they've made a list already. I know when my older son bought his last house, he and my daughter-in-law had done preliminary shopping. I recommended an agent in their area for them to work with, and they went in with a list of 5 houses, and they bought one of those 5. So the agent didn't have a lot of research to do. They did the research ahead. It's all out there online.
That's really, that's nice to know. I didn't know that, but it's one of the things, I guess, with the technology, you have to know. You have to be smart too. I mean, the older people don't think about those things, whereas
some are. We have some clients. We have some senior clients that are very tech savvy. They're very literate with going into all the computer work. The only challenge we find with people that do too much of that online ahead of time is that they might be ruling out possibilities that they haven't thought of, and that's where, you know, a real estate agent that's done their homework and done the research might be able to show them different options. There isn't always enough inventory maybe in the particular thing. They may think they want something specific, but they maybe sometimes have to have their mind opened up to a new idea, a different option.
Well, I know when we first bought our first house, it was a 2-family, and I wasn't interested in that at all because I grew up in a 1-family. But I found that that was the best thing we could have done, because with the monthly rent that we were getting upstairs, it was actually covering our mortgage.
Wow, that's great.
And we were rent-free, which I thought was amazing. Another thing that maybe people won't think about as you grow into a different stage of life decades later, the mobile homes is another thing that people overlook, because now you've got something that looks like a house, and there's less work to take care of it, and many places give you parking spaces where maybe you're short on parking spaces where you might be living, and that's something I hadn't thought about, but I do know that that's a possibility that people many times overlook.
Absolutely, and there used to be multiple opportunities for mobile home developments in Bayonne. We now have just one, but it's a significant amount of space, and there's a good number of units there. People tend to have a negative perception sometimes, and they think of, you know, trailer parks. It's not the same. These days, the mobile homes are beautiful and spacious, and the development that we have here in Bayonne is in a very nice location. It's midtown. It's not far from light rail, and the schools. Most of them are 2 bedrooms, so a young family with 1 or 2 children can easily take care of the space that they need with a mobile home. It's a much more affordable option if they have either the ability to do a personal loan or have the cash to buy them. Unfortunately, you can't get a mortgage for them because you don't own the land. You own the home. So you get title from motor vehicles. So it's an option people don't often think about, but it's a great fit for professional people.
Yep.
It's a very good option for empty nester.
Yes.
You know, downsizing from the big house because the common areas are taken care of. There's a smaller amount of outdoor maintenance for them to do. The modern units are beautifully laid out. They have all of the, you know, the hardwood floors. You can do your granite countertops and all that kind of thing.
Right.
And they're very energy efficient.
Yes.
There is a common area rental fee that you pay to have the space that your home takes up, but they have privacy, they have parking, people can have their pets. It's getting to be a big issue in Bayonne about no pets, no pets. Most of our condo buildings are no pet policy now.
Exactly.
So, and that's part of the family. Many people, their pet is their family, especially with the older people. That's their companionship. It gives them mind focus. So, it's a great alternative, and until recently, we really had very little turnover there, but there are several units that are available now, and it's a great option that somebody might not think about until they sit down with a realtor that can give them some choices.
I think it's great for a young couple starting. I mean, instead of paying rent somewhere so there's nothing coming back, at least if you could take it for 5 years, I mean, when you want to turn it over, you've got something invested to deal with the next piece of property you're going to be getting.
Right, and,
you know? And
that money can then maybe be down payment money that they wouldn't have otherwise had when they then can move up to a separate home.
Exactly.
The market at this point, is starting to rebuild. Our local market, and real estate's very local. In some areas of the country, there's still an awful lot of work to do, but we've seen that increase in the Bayonne market in the last year, actually in the last 6 months. The amount of activity is stronger. The prices are starting to pick up a little bit, 6 or 8% over the last year.
You mean for mortgages?
No, 6 to 8% increase in the values.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, mortgages are still well below 5%.
Okay.
And I don't see many of we were getting 3.25%, 3.5%, so I don't see as many of those now. But there's other avenues for people with financing now. Interest rates are still extremely low compared to what they've been. When I started real estate, interest rates were 9 and 10%.
I know,
there's
they were
history
high.
that they were 14, 15%.
Exactly.
And so for somebody to come in and say, gee, rates are climbing, I can't get 4% anymore, I have to pay 4.5%. 4.5% is a great interest rate for a mortgage.
Yeah, it is. It is, and especially if it's a low amount of money. If it's under 75,000 or 50,000, I mean, that's something that should be considered. If you want that privacy for yourself and the build-up.
Well, the mobile homes, as I say, they can't be mortgaged, but you can certainly get personal loans from a bank for them.
Exactly.
The fees that are associated with it pertain to renting the space that the mobile home sits on, but you own that mobile home.
Right.
Push comes to shove, you disconnect, and there's companies that will move it to a different.
Exactly.
If you're relocating, somebody here in Bayonne, and maybe they want to relocate and retire in North Carolina. There are companies that will make the connection, disconnect utilities, whatever, and they'll put on a trailer and they'll bring that down to wherever part, whether it's north to Maine or south to Florida. So.
Exactly. So those are possibilities that maybe nobody's thought about, but I'm certainly sure that maybe we can put the bug, to think about the possibilities for somebody who might be interested in doing a mobile home. And also, do they, at one time I know that because it was difficult to sell a house, do they still sell a house and you split the 2 levels? You own the bottom and somebody owns the top? Is that something that's? I know it's weird, but it
has
can
been done
be
in the past. What they do is they've turned a 2-family house into 2 condos.
Okay.
But it's extremely difficult nowadays to get that kind of variance from the city, and the challenge then becomes the way mortgage financing is. Condos have to be structured to have a certain minimum number of units before they're approved for financing. Yeah. So by doing that, it kind of restricts you to hoping that you'll have a buyer with either all cash or a very heavy down payment in order to get financing to buy the other half of the house. Right. There's not much of that done anymore.
No, I'm talking about 20 years ago.
The last one of those that I saw done is at least, I want to say it's 8 to 9, maybe 10 years back.
Yeah. Well, it's something that we'd never thought about, but it did come to pass. Sure. At the time that I was thinking of selling my house, well, at that time, the houses were more expensive because, I had mine up for $395,000 back in 1988. Wow. Prices were very high back then. But in order to make it feasible, there was the opportunity to maybe 2 families could split the cost of the house. One family would live upstairs, but they would own it. Mm-hmm. So that was a possibility. Well, I guess that doesn't happen anymore, so we won't go into that place. But tell me what else people should be thinking about when they want to buy a property.
Well, one of the more important things is their flexibility for buying something that needs to be repaired or fixed or updated.
Right.
A lot of people, I think, kind of overlook the opportunity to kind of put their personal style into a home. The the number of people that are looking for fixer-upper houses so that they can do that has really dwindled. And it's really sad because it can be a great opportunity. The FHA, there are programs, the FHA 203K program is a wonderful product. I can give you an example. A young couple I worked with last year, and we looked at over 30 houses and didn't find one that suited both of them. And we ultimately went back, sat down, and I was able to show them that one of the houses that we had seen that they weren't kind of thrilled with, but because it was so much more affordable than what their budget allowed, that by doing one of these loans where you pay for the house, the mortgage buys the house, and then you borrow an extra amount of money to do the repairs. And in their case, they borrowed $35,000 above the purchase price of the house. And one of the issues that they had was that the kitchen was extremely outdated, and it wasn't really a functional layout. And there was carpeting, and every room had different wallpaper in it. So there was a lot of cosmetic issues with the house. It was a good sound house, but a lot of cosmetic work, and they felt a little overwhelmed. But by utilizing one of these programs, you get the workers lined up, the contract is done, the permits are pulled, all of this is structured prior to you closing on the house. Oh. And so the day that you sign the papers and get the keys, the next day the contractor goes in and starts all the work, and it's all been planned and it's all been laid out.
That's wonderful.
And within 4 to 5 weeks, they had a new kitchen, a new bathroom, all the carpet was gone, the hardwood floors were refinished, all these things. It was a totally different house on the inside, new bathroom, and they still came in under budget of what their original budget was.
I love to watch them do those shows on television.
Oh, it's very popular.
Oh, yeah.
It's very popular.
You look at that and you say, no. But with the vision that they have of what could be actually done, and then they do this on the computer and they show you what can be happening, it's wonderful. Yeah. I mean, you never should not think about the possibilities.
Yeah, it's a wonderful program, and it can be for minor cosmetic. It could be for adding an addition to the house, for restructuring the house. I think the only thing that the program won't let you do is put a built-in swimming pool in, because that's not considered to be a sound investment. It's not. There's not a guaranteed positive outcome. In most cases, people end up with equity in the house afterwards because the improvements increase the value so much that they then, by the time they move in, they've already got equity in their house.
That's wonderful. So. Well, it's good that you have to deal with a knowledgeable realtor, because sometimes you're dealing with somebody who's just learning how to get into it, and they don't know all the pros and cons maybe of the possibilities. I always think it's better to take somebody who's got experience, because you don't have to work so hard at trying to figure out all the angles yourself.
Time is precious to all of us these days.
Know.
So it's absolutely worth someone stepping back and let someone who knows what they're doing, someone who's had the training, who's had the experience, and has the
tools.
The tools to work with. Yeah, like in our office, we do have, and you'd mentioned this earlier, we have a list of preferred vendors, whether it's mortgage people, attorneys, contractors, pretty much anything, landscape, whatever,
plumbers,
plumber,
painters,
all the subcontractors.
Yes, exactly.
And those kinds of contacts that we've developed over the years, somebody coming, we're a pretty transient area, so somebody coming new into the area, they wouldn't know,
That's right.
who's a good one to call and who should I not call.
Exactly.
So sometimes a knowledgable real estate agent can kind of guide that.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, we're getting close to closing this show right now. I know it's just a short time, but I hope that we've been able to focus on some of the things, the questions maybe that you would have thought was prevalent to put a bug in your ear about maybe we should be considering buying something rather than renting. I know renting is the easy way out, but you don't save anything for the future, especially if you're young. The one thing you want to do is to try to save enough to have your own home someday. If you want a family,
American dream,
and set roots, and everybody, I think, kind of likes to have a little bit of roots. communities have changed tremendously, especially this one since I've been here. But I think you still have that feeling of small town and families in Bayonne.
Absolutely do. And the city is really focusing now on redevelopment
Right.
and what can we do to kind of keep up the as I say, transient nature, with a lot of people moving in and out more often than the national statistic.
Exactly.
And so with the demographics changing, the city is really trying to take a look at maximizing the development areas that there are. Lots of changes. The light rail has made a huge impact on the east side of town.
Exactly.
There's so much with the proximity to Manhattan,
Yes.
with the development in downtown Jersey City,
Right.
the job market, people that need to commute to those areas, it's a huge draw to come into Bayonne
Yes, I know.
because we're close.
Well, okay, we're down to a minute, and I'm going to say thank you so much, Annette.
Thank you for having
coming.
me. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, I really would have done it sooner, but, didn't have the right people. Thank
okay.
you. Please don't forget to watch the show Sunday nights at 8 o'clock and Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 o'clock. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care. Stay warm.
Thank you, Greta.
Goodbye.